Well, time now for a check of what's making the front pages in the French press, and I'm joined for that by Elena Casas. Good morning to you, Elena.
Morning again, Tom.
Now, the French government's new austerity measures, that's capturing pretty much all the attention of all the major dailies here in Paris.
Yep, that's all they're interested in today. Let's take a look first at right-wing Le Figaro. Their front page is pretty neutral. It says a 12 billion euro deficit plan, and it explains the main measures on the front page. But inside, if we have a look at the editorial, they're really towing the party line today in right-wing Le Figaro. It's quite fawning, I must say. It says Nicolas Sarkozy and François Fillon have faced up bravely to their responsibilities and saved France from fresh crisis. It's time for France to wean itself off the drug of deficit addiction, they say, after 35 years, and the paper says the best way to do that is through Nicolas Sarkozy's idea of enshrining a golden rule of a deficit limit in law. Now, according to the paper, it's what they call the negligent and irresponsible socialists who are stopping this from happening, and apart from the smokers and the very rich, they say the government is benevolently sparing the French economic pain, so they're very much supporting these new austerity measures in Le Figaro.
All right, and France, of course, not the only one out there. Lots of countries in the Eurozone feeling that same pinch. Now, do the other papers share that analysis of Le Figaro?
Not quite. The business paper La Tribune says that there's been a lot of song and dance being made by the government about the very rich making a special contribution. Some of them have even volunteered to pay extra taxes as a patriotic contribution to France's budget deficit. They did that yesterday. But they say this is purely symbolic in La Tribune. They say the new tax that's been announced on the very wealthiest will only bring in 200 million euros, whereas it's part of a package of savings and cuts worth 12 billion. So that's a tiny percentage. The paper says the government, the wealthiest rather, will still be paying proportionately less tax than the less well-off, and the government has left all of the tax exemptions on big business, which have allowed many of them to become so wealthy, alone. So they say this is actually terribly convenient for France's wealthiest. It looks like they're making a contribution, but really it's nothing.
All right, and what does the left make of all that? I can see Sarkozy there peeking out on the front page of Libération. What's that saying?
Well, Libération, the left-wing paper, isn't particularly keen on these measures. As you can imagine, they would not be. They do point out that a lot of these are directly reversing the economic policies that were implemented by Sarkozy when he took power in 2007. They were his key measures on which he won that presidential election, and they were all meant to be encouraging growth. The tax-free overtime, encouraging the French to work more, to earn more. That's under threat now, apparently. They may be getting rid of that. He had promised to encourage, to create rather no more taxes on the wealthy in order to encourage people to work harder and become successful. He's gone back on that now, and his famous fiscal shield policy, which was meant to restrict the amount of overall tax that the wealthiest could pay, that's been scrapped already. So on the front page of Libération, they go back over this famous work more to earn more slogan and change it into reverse more to cut more on the front page. If you look inside, they say that it's the lowest paid who will be hit hardest, and the government has ignored a multiplicity of different tax exemptions that have been created for wealthy people and for big businesses since 2007. If they got rid of some of those, like the lack of VAT on restaurants, then they'd be able to make a lot of the money back. And they also say that the income tax system has become so complicated they need to start again from scratch with a higher top tax rate for the wealthiest.
All right, and the Socialist Party's been quick to come up with some ideas of their own. What did the press make of that?
Well, Le Monde's editorial on their front page is pretty scathing about the socialists as well. They say the easiest way to lose an election is to be so convinced you'll win by default, you don't bother coming up with any proper policies, and they say that's the trap that the socialists are falling into. They say that a majority of French people do want to see a socialist president, but they don't trust the socialists with the economy. There's half a dozen different socialist candidates competing for that presidency, and none of them agree on what economic policy to follow.
And finally, something a little different in Libération. What's that about?
Yes, just very quickly, I was going to say lighter, but it's actually quite sad story in Libération. This is about a 67-year-old retiree who was found with hundreds of traffic signs in his house, street signs, street names and so on. When the local municipality wanted to find out why he'd stolen them all, he said that he was hurting so much over his recent divorce that he went and stole all the street signs for the places where he and his wife had been happy together because he couldn't bear seeing them when he drove around.
Oh, that's tragic. Heartbreaking story there. Well, thank you very much, Elena Casas, for bringing us up to date.
Thank you.